Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku.
Is the lighting okay, Emma?
Everything is good. And Luke, we are live on the air. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stylin', the podcast with myself, Master Amir, and my co-star, former WWE superstar and AEW superstar for that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause for the stylist, Rico Casatino.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the show. It's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. We got a special guest, as you can see at the top left hand of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. We have a WWE legend, a Hall of Famer, in fact, one half of the most lovable tag team in wrestling history, or the most dangerous, depending on when you first saw them. The Bushwhackers, ladies and gentlemen, this is Luke Williams. Luke, welcome.
Oh, good day, mateys. It's great to see you out there. You're all looking great out there. I appreciate you coming onto the show and listen to our whatever we talk about.
We're going to talk about quite a few subjects today, but before we begin, as always, Rico, what would look good to you and I?
What will look good to me is if you lay the smack down on that subscribe button, hit the like, and share it with your friends.
That's right. That means a lot to us. That definitely helps the algorithm. For those of you that are returning viewers that have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure that you do. And a quick reminder before we begin today, ladies and gentlemen, next weekend, next Sunday, I'm not sure of the exact date because I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I apologize. Rico, do you happen to have one on your phone so I can give the viewers? So not this Sunday, next Sunday?
It's going to be April 13th.
April 13th, Sunday Stylin' will go live for the very first time. So make sure that you fill up those wallets and get ready to hit your super stickers so you can have your questions answered live right here on Stylin'. But that's enough of the announcements because we have our special guest here today. He's been a guest of this channel in the past, Masters of Wrestling. He's been a guest on Power and Glory, but now he joins us on Stylin'. Now, what I didn't realize was that Luke, you have a connection with Rico. Rico, you had a connection with Luke that you didn't even know of until today.
I did not know.
Right.
And I'm still smiling. What a small world.
Rico, I did that gimmick from 1962 to 66, 67.
Which
in
gimmick
New Zealand and Australia. I even worked for Jim Barnett. You've heard of Jim Barnett, of course.
Yeah.
Who was Ted Turner's good friend, and he was the one that got Ted Turner to put the wrestling on the up in the sky on the satellite. And I worked for him as Sweet William. I started off as Gorgeous Teddy Williams, and then went to Sweet William.
So you know a thing or two about being flamboyant, Rico.
Yes,
Rico, can you
doing a little ballet in the match and all that sort of stuff. I was only then I was under 200 pounds, then up to 66, 68 I was, around 190. I started at 170, 190, 200 pounds, but I was doing the gay gimmick, Gorgeous George gimmick.
The Gorgeous George.
I was going to say Gorgeous George, the creator of it all.
Yeah, the creator of it all. But so now, Luke, did you enjoy doing that? I mean, in contrast to what you ended up doing as the Bushwhackers.
Well,
Champions. They're not born in the gym. It starts from the inside and it works its way out. Do you feel it more difficult to obtain muscle? Are you tired or perhaps depressed? Then there's a solution. Our brand new partner and sponsor, Care Aesthetics of La Quinta, are here to help you get restored to optimal health. Just use the contact information in this video and schedule your free consultation. Be sure to mention the name of the podcast, whether that be Power and Glory, Stylin', Masterclass, or Hey Roma, when doing so. We wish you all the best in your road to optimized health. And now, back to the show.
Now, Luke, did you enjoy doing that? I mean, in contrast to what you ended up doing as the Bushwhackers.
Well, my valet, I had a male valet and then I had a female one. But the male valet would do a little too much. And because I was doing the gay thing and he was looking after me, like spraying me and making sure I was all, you know,
Glamorous.
pretty, and that the fans used to attack him because he
Oh,
was small, and that
oh,
and he got pulled out with a suit and beaten up a few times.
oh,
But
gosh.
then I had a female valet who I would give a hard time to. You know, going to the ring, and then I'd stop and I'd lift my arms up and make her spray me with perfume. And if she didn't, I'd slap her. And that got me heat. I never, I wasn't a person to work the crowd till I did something. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that just proved that I was nasty.
yeah,
But to just taken to go to the ring, I could get heat just with
yeah.
my valet. And that because she was a gorgeous looking woman.
Well, it's funny you mentioned getting heat because Rico, you know a thing or two about that. I mean, you got heat. You didn't even ask for it when you first came out. Tell Luke about that.
Oh, with the stylist character,
That's
correct?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was managing Billy and Chuck, who were the current WWF slash E tag champions. And they hated me so much as the stylist. I would just walk to the ring and they would just yell, Rico sucks. I guess because it rolls off the tongue. I
Yeah.
guess. But Billy would be in there wrestling, and in one match, he was taking on I don't know who, but they're doing their thing in the ring, and the crowd is just yelling at me, Rico sucks, Rico sucks. And then after the match, Billy came back and goes, what are you doing? What are you stealing our spot for? I said, Billy, I didn't do a thing. I just stood there.
Mhm.
And this is television. So he looked at the next week's tape and saw that I was just standing there, and the crowd just went nuts.
Yeah.
So he kind of
Was
let
this
up a
Billy
little
Gunn?
bit.
Was this Billy Gunn?
Yes,
Yeah.
Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo. They were playing the ambiguous gay duo type
Oh, they
thing.
were the couple. That
Yeah.
was well after me. I was there when Billy Gunn came in with his partner, you know, the Cowboys.
Yeah. The
Oh,
Smoking Guns.
Smoking Guns.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That was it. Yes.
Yep.
Because
And then he
Luke.
went to and then he went to Degeneration X. He was with
Yeah,
Road Dog.
Yep.
yeah, but and after Generation X, he did the gay gimmick. Then did he?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
that's when I came in, early 2000s.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
wanted me to get them more heat, and I was hired as their stylist. At least that's what Vince told me. And I asked him, what kind of stylist? Hair stylist, foot stylist? He goes, flesh it out. And he walked away. And then after about 2 weeks, I thought about it and thought about it. And I said, I'm going to be the image consultant. And then it really worked. And that's how we got to the wedding they did on SmackDown. Do you remember
yeah.
that?
That was some
Yeah,
classic
I
TV.
was the guy in the tuxedo. I didn't wear stripes that day. I wore a tuxedo because I was the best man in
Yeah.
this commitment ceremony.
Yeah.
Rico, I got to ask you actually. Now, when you played the stylist, was it said to you, was it ever spoken to you that they wanted this character to be gay? Because you never knew. I mean, you assumed Billy and Chuck, but you never really knew about Rico. Was there any discussion about that?
No,
No.
flesh it out, one of these, and that's all I got told.
Yeah.
So everything that after a couple weeks after Black on Black came from me.
Yeah.
I didn't get any help with it, and that's where the flamboyant suits came out, and the sideburns were already growing, and I just made them this way
Yeah.
instead of the Elvis honky tonk sideburns or the corporate rock
Yeah.
sideburns. I made them these.
Yeah. Luke, when you were doing your gimmick, your version of Rico's gimmick back in the 60s, 70s, what was the signature? What was your signature? Like sideburns or something? What did you wear? Did you wear a hat? Did you wear a cape?
No, I
What was
had
it?
long blonde hair, and I had curlers in it too.
Oh,
That and when I get to the ring, they take the things off,
yeah.
the couple of curlers out, and all that sort of stuff.
We need to track down
Ah,
video footage of that somehow.
oh my
We
No,
have
gosh.
that was in New Zealand. We didn't even have television. We never got television to 68. This
to.
is, I was finished with that in 67, 66.
66. Okay.
Where,
Gosh.
Luke, were you in? Where in New Zealand were you?
Everywhere. I know. I'm from Wellington, New Zealand, but
Yep.
we worked in 1966, 65. A guy came, John De Silva, who was in the Empire Games and got a silver medal. He came back and opened up. He turned pro in England from amateur and came back and opened up a 7-day-a-week territory. Before that,
Wow.
we were only running when an American or a European or British guy, mainly British and European guys, came to our country. One would come down for about 3 months and do maybe 2 shows a week, you know what I mean, for different promoters. And then a guy came in and opened up, John De Silva, and started bringing English wrestlers, from England and that for 6 months. And we'd be running 6 to 7 days a week.
Gosh, man.
Well,
Yeah.
I asked that because I love New Zealand. I am an All Blacks fan and
I
have
am.
been since the 90s.
I'm hot. Yeah, bloody South Africa beat us. We had two world champions in a row, and then South Africa beat us.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I
that
was.
at the moment, that feud has been going on. You know what apartheid in South Africa, that was caused through New Zealand football team going over there in the 50s.
Wow.
That's when the apartheid
Yeah.
started there. Because
Yep.
we had Maoris on our team, and the
Yeah.
South
Of
Africans
course.
South
I've been to
Africans
this.
wouldn't play. South Africans wouldn't play against them.
Right. Yeah, it was really Springboks, South African
The
Springboks, correct?
Springboks against the All Blacks.
Yeah, that's been a rival like Yankees and Dodgers in
Yeah,
our American
yeah.
baseball.
That
But I
that
got to visit Christchurch, Rotorua, Wellington, and I ended up in Auckland. And when I was there, uh, I got to meet the chief in Rotorua of one of the Maori tribes. His son and I he just clung to me like a piece of lint while I was touring there.
what were you
And
doing there? Wrestling?
no, I was part of a group called the Power Team, a Christian group that used to break bricks, rip phone books, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I was getting off the plane, and there was a bunch of people there waiting for us to come in. And I saw this boy because it gets cold there. Down in Christchurch, it was snowing, and this boy was shivering, and he had just a t-shirt on. Well, I had this pullover, this yellow and purple pullover, and I saw him. I took it off and I put it on him. I didn't know who he was, but I put it on him. So we were there for over a week. And when I left, then I found out it was the chief's son. And what he did to say thank you is handmade me a little mini patu, which was their weapon, but he made it out of jade and put it on a leather string and he gave it to me.
Oh,
Jade,
wow.
yes, that's what they do.
Do you still
Yeah.
have that, Rico? Do you still have it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
still have it.
And also New Zealand was where you had that other story, right? That's where you were roped into hunting. Was that
No,
correct?
that was Rockhampton, Australia.
Oh, that was Australia. Okay. My
Yeah.
mistake. We won't mention Australia here today.
And those Aussies.
Don't you?
No.
I don't think he doesn't mind the Aussies, but
Yeah.
the South African. Now we're gonna get into a wrestling match.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll stay off the subject of football and whatnot
The,
here. We're
the
going
first
back.
time I went to South Africa to wrestle guys, the commission were all guys in the 70s, all guys in the 70s. You had to go in front of the commission and wrestle on the mat before they gave you a permit to wrestle in the country. So you had to
Wow.
go to the gym and go on the mat and wrestle, and the referee worked with you. The commission thought the referee was straight up, but
Yeah.
he worked with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Then you got permission. Now at the shows, the commission would sit right on the edge of the apron on the tables there in the heel corner, And if you tried to sneak in, the fucking old bastard used to stand up and grab your leg and
Yeah.
stop you from going into the ring to get extra heat.
Right. What
When
a
they shook your
saboteur.
hand, they shook your hand like they were trying to crush your hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These were the old Dutch Germans. You know.
Yeah.
So
Gosh.
I was there. I've been there a few times, but apartheid was heavy when I went there. And any blacks on the street would get truncheon and thrown in the paddy wagon if it was over 7 o'clock and they didn't have a work permit for
Wow.
working at a place.
Yeah.
And anyhow, there's a place called Sun City. That was the only place where black people from other countries could come into. You heard of Sun City?
You
I
heard of
heard
it,
of it.
Rico? Yeah, I've heard of it.
Now, okay, the world champion in boxing was Cordier or something, Corsier, and a guy called Page came over and beat him. Now, we'd run a wrestling show that night, and then we had it in the back room of the arena. We had a big television set up because they had it on pay-per-view, and all the commission was there, and Butch and me were there, and of course, you know, these commissioners were in the 70s, and they were dead against black people. The champion was a South African, but he was white, Cortez or something or other. Anyhow, the black guy beat him, and me and Butch stood up and started cheering him. Boy, we had to get out of that dressing. We had to get it out of that room. Those old guys, they were one of the baddest for wrestling in South Africa.
Gosh, man.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe like we're looking at Luke now. Luke, your career has spanned how many decades now? For the viewers' benefit. How many decades has it spanned?
63 years I've been in the business.
Wow.
Oh my
63
God.
years, Rico.
That's how old I am.
63 years his legacy is
Oh
big.
my gosh.
Yeah, I had my match, but 61 years, 2023, I had my last match.
That close? That wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
That wasn't
No,
that long.
the
No, it's
doctor.
2 years.
I think I told you, Rico, before, Emma,
Yeah.
that I wrestled in 223. I was having trouble breathing. I used to wrestle all the time up to then, and the young guys I'd have to pick up off the mat when it came to the finish, you know, to get the people up for the finish because they were blowing up.
Yeah.
Whether it's because, you know, I don't know whether it was because they're working with a legend or, you know, and they were like that, like a deer in headlights, or they were blowing up.
Yeah.
Anyhow, all of a sudden in 223, I started fucking sucking for air.
Mhm.
So my daughter's a nurse. She told me to go to a new cardio doctor.
Okay.
So I went and saw him, and he sent me straight for tests on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday. Now Saturday I was working in the ring. That night when I worked in the ring, in the end I had to drag myself out of the ring, and I had to have oxygen. Those oxygen cans you buy to squirt after the match to get my heart was going boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I got back on Monday and I had a message there. Go to the hospital. The doctor's going to put a stent straight away. My heart was working at 30%.
Gosh, man, that's pretty low.
Oh,
Yeah,
and you're still wrestling.
2 arteries were blocked, and that's why it was working at 30%, and now it's only working at 40%. But 55 is good. If it's working 55%, it's good. And so now I only come in and do spot at the end of a match. I'll manage a team and then come in for the last 3 minutes. You know, after the 1, 2, 3, get the heel to attack the baby face. I come in and then do the Rikishi spot. The stink face.
Luke, which company are you working for now, Luke, out there in Florida? Which company do you appear
I
at?
don't work for any company in Florida, mate.
Okay.
Fucking, they don't pay anything.
All right.
I work around. I got agents, and I work around the country. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So you do special appearances. It could be at any company as long.
Yeah, I work
Yeah.
for. I do Comic Cons
Mhm.
and Comic Cons and Wrestle Cons and independent shows.
Yeah.
You can book me for independent shows,
Yeah.
promoters and that, and I just go and do signings, meet and greet, photo ops,
Mhm.
and if it's a house show, I'll do a spot. I'll go out with the main event and then do spot at the end of the match. So
Yes,
to
sir.
send the people home, get a big pop and send the people home.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Right.
And incidentally, if there is anybody watching who is interested in booking Luke for any upcoming appearances, Luke, do you have a contact information? And I can put a description in a link in the description.
Yeah, Whacker 47.
Okay.
It's the Whacker is WHACKER 47 at gmail.com.
There you go. And we'll put that in the description of this video. So if you want to get in contact with Luke for any bookings, use that email address to get in contact with him. Rico, so there's that connection there, that initial connection between the two of you. You're going to say something?
Right.
What are you going to say?
I was going to say off camera, I found out that when I did my homage to Adrian Street, I didn't know Luke had worked with him for so many years and did his gimmick. And I'd like him to tell that story. And then I'll go into how I did it and changed it, because like I said before, in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, you could do that to your female valet. And I was telling Luke off camera, if I'd have did that to Miss Jackie, I'd have got shot
Yeah.
in the ring. I'd have never
Yeah.
left alive.
Well,
So,
I had all that in the South when I came in as the sheep herders. We got guys with guns and all that, and shootings and our cars put on sides and a lot of things. We'd have to get driven out of the arenas in police cars, and someone take our car to the outskirts of town. That's
yeah.
how bad it was when we were the sheep herders, and
Yeah.
that was in the early '80s.
Yep, that's
You know
right.
what I mean? Crazy, In the
Crazy.
South,
Yeah.
they in the South they still thought the South was going to rise and take over the North.
Yeah. Yeah. The Civil
Crazy,
War. It had long
and
passed.
that was over 100 years ago.
Right. Exactly. It had long passed. Luke, how did you first meet Adrian Street?
I was working in Tennessee, came in to work with the Fabulous Ones. They'd just been formed, Steve Kern and Stan Lane, and he'd done. Jerry Jarrett was the first to do music videos, and he did a lot of good videos with them to make these two guys as sex symbols, like being in a whirlpool together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And coming out and doing interviews, and then all different sorts of things. And they used a lot of stuff from ZZ Top's music, Well Dressed Men, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they had the Fargo Walk. Remember the Fargo Walk?
Oh, yeah.
Jackie Fargo?
Yeah.
Anyhow, because Jackie Fargo was their manager at the start
Okay.
to get them over. He put them together in 80,
Okay.
and he brought teams in to put them over fast.
Okay.
And then he brought us in. We had been working for his cousins,
Okay.
the Welshes. If you heard of the Welshes, right?
I have not heard of them. I've been trying to concentrate right now because Odin has gotten right in front of
Odin,
the
yeah, I
camera.
know. He's in the picture.
Yeah.
The Welshes and the Fullers, mate.
The Fullers?
The Fullers.
The
You've heard
Fuller.
of Robert Fuller and Ron
Fullers.
Fuller?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Fullers.
Yeah, well, that's the Welsh family. The real name is the Welsh family. They ran from the East Coast to the West Coast in the South. They were all related. The foreigner promoter, the Grahams, all the families, they were all relations to the Welshes, and the Welshes were on and had a television station to in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Fullers, that was Ron and Robert Fuller's dad.
Okay. Oh, you talking? No, we're talking about Adrian Street. So,
Yeah,
No, we're
Adrian
talking about
Street. Anyhow, Jarrett was related to them too.
okay.
Anyhow, we'd worked for the Jarretts for the Fulchers, Ron and Robert Fuller, and then the next step was their really cousins was Jerry Jarrett,
Okay.
and we came in there to work with them, and then what's the name brought in? The booker was Bill Dundee, and he brought in Adrian Street from the West Coast.
Okay.
And
Now,
that, and of course, as I said before to you, Adrian was the same size as Bill Dundee, that height and about 190 pounds.
okay. So he's
And
a
that
pretty.
190 pound, he was a tough little bastard. He could get big guys at 240, 250. He'd grab their hand and make them get on their knees straight away.
Wow. So he's
Wow.
Yeah, he was
vicious.
a tough. I'm talking about tough,
Yeah. A
tough as
tough,
nails. And he
tough.
was anti-queer, anti-queer.
So he was playing totally off of what he,
Yes, he was.
gosh, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
oh, know that feeling.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and the fans wanted to attack him, and little did they know that they'd be on the ground like yesterday. He
Yeah.
came out of he went to the school of Wigan in England, where all the shooters came from.
Oh man. Yeah. That's rough. That's a
You
rough.
heard about that
Yeah.
place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's rough. Yeah.
Everyone had cauliflower noses and cauliflower ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, so Adrian's
So,
on the
so
road
hold
with
on a minute. Hold on a minute, Luke. So how on earth, how did he bloody get this gimmick to be Adrian Street? Who gave it to? Did he even make it up? Was it his idea?
Yeah, yes, in England.
Wow.
He started in the 50s in England,
Oh yeah, yeah. He's been around.
late 50s.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, he's so anti that and so tough. What would make
Yeah, that no one was doing that. I don't think there was another guy who was doing it, but Adrian really got the gimmick down to a T.
yeah.
He wrote his own music. He sang his own songs.
Wow.
Adrian was an artist. He put up an art gallery in Pensacola,
Mhm.
hired a big art gallery, and put his art in there. And he had his wrestling school in Pensacola. He bought apartments because all the guys from England and Europe used to come over and train with him.
Mhm.
Linda was a seamstress. He would design
Yes.
the costume. They'd come over. They'd pay him to learn
Yeah.
and live in his accommodation, which they had to pay for.
Yeah.
He would tell them a gimmick for them after he learned their personality. He'd design a gimmick for them. Linda would make the costumes and everything. They
Wow.
did everything.
Wow. He's like a one-stop shop. I didn't know
He
this
was a
about Adrian.
designer. He wrote music. He wrote music. He wrote albums. His son had a band and came over and recorded in L.A. a couple of albums that Adrian wrote for him.
Rico, did you know about all these accolades after his name?
I knew about Skull Crushers. Skull Crushers was his company that made the outfits.
Mhm.
And for him letting me plagiarize his gimmick and move it up to the 2000, the millennium, I bought all my gear from him for
Yeah.
a year to
Yeah.
say thank you. And I wore everything that I guess now I know it was his wife that made. So,
He
you
drew.
know,
He drew them. He drew
yep.
the things, and then she made them.
That's
Well, I tell you what, they all my early outfits when I first came out as his character, I was a heel, and they are very Adrian Street-esque. You
yeah.
know, the black, the red, the fringes, all that. Yeah, they were. Then after that year,
The lace. They have lace on them too.
he had everything. I'm talking. I had jumpsuits with little. They had everything. I mean, he
Yeah.
just sent them to me. He just sent them to me. You know, I'd order them. I'd said, okay, I need something wild and this and that. And boy, they came in wild.
Yeah.
And then the fans turned me from heel to face. You know, it was after that first year. So then I had to go to the lighter colors, my face paint, because I did face paint different than Adrian, but it was darker colors, the black, the reds,
Yeah,
the dark blues, and made myself really, you know, and then when I turned face, I went to the lighter colors, and then I started wearing pink and chartreuse and all that stuff. And my
yeah,
face paint had to get lighter, yellows,
yeah,
powder blues, gold, silver, and stuff like that. But yeah, for my first year, Adrian, I guess, designed them as what I'm hearing now, and his wife
yeah.
made them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was the one that told him to move to Pensacola. He was asking me because I'd been around the country, and he asked me, he said he liked the South. Where would he go? And I said, you can get you get a little bit of the winter, just a fraction,
Yeah.
But I mean Pensacola, and then he went there, and he used to buy Cougarans, gold, the South
Yeah,
African Cougarans.
Krugerrands, yeah.
That's what he bought with all his money. As he made, he kept buying gold, 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 gold.
Smart guy. So
Yeah.
I presume he retired very healthily. He
Yeah, and then
financially.
he went back to his home, which was Wales. He had an old castle there before he left. It was falling down, falling to pieces. But he went back home there and did a bit of work on it and that. But he had another home and then it died. But he was still in great shape.
Yeah.
He got cancer so bad that he was vomiting up blood,
Yeah.
shooting out of his mouth,
Oh, that's
and he
horrible.
beat it. And
That's
he beat it.
terrible.
Oh, he beat it? Okay, he beat it. Okay.
Yeah, this was going back.
Yeah.
It was shooting out the blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Just goes to show the human body,
Health, yeah,
health is
health, because he was a very health freak guy. You know what I mean? He
yeah.
had to get something to do. He would get right on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy, he used to get onto Linda. We'd go on the road and he was driving,
Yeah.
and he'd give me the next turn, give me directions.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I don't understand, Ray. Lade, I don't understand. He would just lean over the seat and grab her and shake her. Well, you fucking better learn. He'd stop in the middle of the road. He'd stop in the middle of the road and do this.
Wow.
Me and Butch in the back laughing our head off.
Oh my God.
So you mean to tell me that Adrian Street's wife, Linda, was the discoverer of a GPS?
She
What
was
our
the
modern
GPS.
day,
She
she was
used
the
to hold.
GPS.
She used to hold the RAM map. She used to hold the big old RAM
Yeah, the
map
Rand
in her hand.
McNally,
Yeah, the
the
rally of
Rand
the RAM.
McNally man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I used
I
to use
know.
those.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Rand McNally
Oh,
nap.
the trips for Adrian were unreal
Yeah.
because he was used to driving on the other side of the road.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, we
yeah,
were too at the
Yeah.
start, but we've
yeah.
been here since '72, so
Yeah.
we were used to it. But Adrian, yeah, yeah. So Adrian was a fucking master, and he wrote music for people,
Yeah.
and the song he sung going in the ring. I can't. I'm trying to think of it. The words to you. He used to go around. He would skip around the ring singing a song.
Okay. We'll
But
have
they
to.
were playing it. They would be playing the music, and I can see him now going around, skipping around the ring with his two little ponytails sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Soon
the
as he
two.
come
He
out
did
of the
like the
ring,
pigtails.
Yeah.
soon
Yeah.
as he come out of the ring, and back to the dressing room, Linda, take these oils. He'd sit in a chair, and Linda would have to come over to him because he was the king, and she'd have to take the two things out of his hair.
Yeah.
The ones because he had two little things sticking up on either side.
So he
Yeah,
was a
they call them pigtails.
Pigtails, yeah.
Pigtails,
he was
yeah.
a total contrast to what he was. What you saw on
Yeah,
screen was not who he
and they
was.
go to the shower, and he'd get Linda to come and scrub him, and he'd shag Linda in the shower.
Oh my God.
Fuck it. He was too much.
Actually, he was a water conservationist.
And
Yeah.
boy,
There
he
you go.
could do so many things with his John Thomas. He
Yeah.
could do the flying swan. He could do the bomb. The more your John Thomas is
Yeah. Viewers
Yeah.
your male
younger.
privates.
Yeah.
He could
Oh,
do.
yeah.
He could make it. He could make it do a lot of different things.
Talented guy,
Wow.
I guess. A
He was
talented
very
guy.
talented.
A talented guy, but health as well. You mentioned health there, Luke, and we often tell our viewers about health. You've seen the commercial run through this video for our partner here, Care Aesthetics of La Quinta. If you do need any help with health, we suggest that you contact them. The link is in the description of this video. And also, I was thinking today, because we're all men of faith here, and I was thinking, we pray for anybody out there that has any health conditions.
Yes.
We hope that your health conditions are remedied and that you get back in, tip-top health in Jesus' name. I just felt that we should say that because we were talking about health earlier.
Yeah, we like to see everybody with their motor running, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We pray that for you. So, but no, that's incredible. Look, Rico, when you met, just to kind of bring this to a close today, when you met Adrian Street, what was he like to you? Was he this hard as nails guy, or did he kind of wound down by that time?
He definitely had a strong aura about him. I mean, and I knew who he was
Yeah.
because before I got into wrestling, I knew about Adrian Street.
Yeah.
And I had seen several of his matches and stuff like that, but he was very kind and very open to help me get this homage off. And like I said, I sat with him and Linda.
Yeah.
Sweetest, but you could tell with somebody's aura, he's not somebody to be messed with because, as you know, and I'll tell Luke, my past is nothing in common with what I did in stage.
Right.
Just as Adrian. Now, I'm not saying I was tough as nails as Adrian, and my John Thomas, I don't know if it was that talented, but I wasn't shagging anybody in the shower. I will say that.
Now, Rico, when Adrian said something, that he meant it.
Oh, yes.
What he said,
Yes.
he meant, and he was very, very educated on a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Very
Yeah,
educated.
And that's why I asked him.
He was not someone you could play around with.
Got it.
No, a very, very smart man. And that's why I needed his advice to bring that character into the millennium to where it would be accepted and as a heel, because he was a great heel. And he did. He gave me the best advice. And I think that's why, when I took it and internalized it and became it, that's why it took off. But Adrian and Linda helped me because I knew I was going to get a valet female. I didn't know who yet because they were still deciding, but Linda gave me her 2 cents and Adrian just kept talking knowledge and how to do this. If this happens, this is what you do. And, this is how this worked for me. This is, and this is what I did. Da, da, da. And I was sitting there like a sponge soaking it up for like 6 hours.
Yeah, that's incredible. Luke, when was one of the last times that you spoke with Adrian before he passed?
No, I spoke to him over there on the phone.
Okay.
He passed at home in Wales.
Yeah.
And I always email, text them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now, when I went to Texas and got the book from Joe Blanchard, Tully Blanchard's father, and that I brought Adrian in straight away.
Yeah.
But I put him with the wrong guy. Well, the right guy for business, but the guy's head wasn't right. I more or less gave Al Perez his first break in the business. He started in about 81 over in Tampa here. He was taught by Matsu, another family. The agent in AEW who's got the
Dean Malenko.
the Malenko family. He was taught by
Dean
the
Malenko.
dad. He was taught by who was very, very knowledgeable and starting a lot of wrestlers. The dad, and I brought Al Perez in. Now Al is pretty vain. He's a Latin.
Okay.
And he's big. You know what I mean? Well, 240.
Okay.
Good body.
That's a big fella.
Yeah.
And here's this gay guy, Adrian Street, 190, but he was buffed up. He looked
Yeah.
about 210, but he was
Yeah.
only 190.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He
I
was
put him against,
compacted.
yes. And Al hated to do the job for him. I said we're going to do the program, because Al was a baby face,
Mhm.
and the woman loved him. The fans loved him, but when he had to do the job,
Mm-mm.
he didn't like doing that. He didn't like doing that. You know what I mean?
I,
Yeah.
And to
oh, I
get
know the feeling.
Yeah.
They did it to me in WWE when I turned face and they had to work with me in the ring and I was doing my shenanigans during my shine. A lot of guys would give me heat for it and
Yeah.
just and then a short talk with Vince, they come out and they end up doing the spots.
Yep, yep. There you go. A little bit of
yeah.
reprimanding. Luke, was there anyone that you ever worked with when you were doing your flamboyant character that really didn't like it? They didn't like working with you. Was there anyone?
No.
Oh, okay.
We
That's
were
good.
all together in New Zealand. They didn't care. They were just happy to work with me because I was the star.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't the main event, but I was a junior heavyweight, and I had a lot of people who would come to see me get beaten.
Got it.
You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
They wanted to work with me because that when they made the comeback, and I would do the begging and the powdering and do all the faggot stuff,
All the
and that freak out and all that. The fans loved it.
Yeah. Rico, did you find it easy doing that yourself when you had to really turn it up to do all those flamboyant gestures? Or was it tough?
Well, it was tough in the beginning because I tried to do it to humiliate. Because, like I said, I started as a heel, and that stuff was to humiliate
Mhm.
the face. So when he did do his comeback, as Luke said, the crowd was on his feet, beat him, beat him, beat him,
Yeah.
and get what's coming to him, pinch him in the butt, kiss him on the cheek,
Yeah.
rub my hands across his oily chest. It was meant to humiliate him.
Right.
And the referee would always step in, and I'd step back, and then I'd do a pirouette, and bounce
Yeah.
around and blow kisses,
Yeah.
which made them even more mad.
Right.
And then I started doing more stuff, and then I started giving them like a toe drop, and then jumping on their back like a horse
Mhm.
and start slapping them in the butt,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And other stuff I did in the corner, go to kiss them.
You reminded me a lot of stuff that I forgot about.
You were doing that too, Luke?
Yeah, the old slapping on the butt and riding on the horse and that when he's down. Yeah, but when he got up, flying up and that.
Yeah,
The worst thing I did, for angles for Big Show, I had Adrian put a dress on fucking Al Perez. Now, when I told Al Perez this, his face, you could see the fire. He was like this. I hope he's not listening to me now. He's a good mate of mine.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And that, but Al Perez, this is going back now in the 80s when you put a dress. But I told him when it comes to the Big Show, you were going to do a lot of shit to Adrian. Then Adrian's going to be down and you're going to make him eat shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But but putting the dress on Al Perez, oh boy, that was hard too. When he went to put the dress on, and that I could see him fighting Adrian to sort of make it hard for him to put the dress on.
Now,
give a little
Adrian
resistance.
sort of knocked him out, semi-conscious, but he was still he didn't want to have that dress on him.
Yeah. Now, speaking of dresses, gentlemen, because I wanted to bring up, obviously, we've talked about Adrian Street. We've talked about the two of you, but we can't finish without talking about Goldust. Now, Goldust was it depends on what generation you're in, but he really took it to a whole other level in the 90s because that was a real touchy time. But now Luke told us before we went on the air, Luke, actually, you met Dustin way back. Tell the story about Dustin, your
Yeah,
very first match.
I'm wrestling. I'm in NWA, for the NWA office out of Charlotte, and I'm working against the Rock and Roll Express. Butcher me doing the circuit with them and doing great houses, and we're up in Amarillo, and Dusty was the booker, and he said to, I'm going to put Dustin in, my son in, as a referee, help him. So the first time he ever came, more, I don't know, he might have refereed before us, but this was his first main event that he ever refereed, and we led him right through the match. Dustin. Now this was I'd say 86.
Yeah, so he was very young because he debuted. He was like 21, I think, in 91.
Yeah, maybe 87. Anyhow, we had him there. So anyhow, moving forward, he comes into WWF and they give him the gimmick.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know what to do. He's asking us, and I went over the Adrian Street gimmick with him. Okay. I went over with Dustin what Adrian Street did and what I did way back in the 60s. Fucking hell. Not that I could remember much, but I was telling him.
That's great.
I was telling him.
That is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Dustin and that, but then when they put his wife with him with a cigar, that really lifted it up.
Yeah.
That was really flamboyant.
Yeah,
she looked the part too, and they should have told people that it was his wife. That was well, they didn't actually tell it directly, but it went on everywhere that it was his wife.
Terry Reynolds.
You know what's really blowing my mind here is like this. If everyone thinks of Goldust and that's it because he's the most modern version of that androgynous character, but it sounds like, Rico, that it all leads back to Luke. That maybe Luke, you were one of the originals at all along.
But not in America. Not in America.
Okay.
Anyhow, too, moving forward, going to England in 81, 91, 92, Undertaker was on the card then, 92, and he was over. And that's when Dustin was over, Goldust. And those shows in England, the lights go out and Undertaker comes out, and it was a big thing. He was a big thing.
Yeah.
And the other big thing was Goldust.
Yeah.
Now, Goldust was right up there. Not as big as the Undertaker, but the Goldust coming out with all that glitter and the spotlight on him, the room
and the
dark,
robe.
Yeah.
The room dark and the glitter and the robe coming out with that shit. The crowd this was wild, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a wild.
I had the same thing when we went over to England. When I came out, the crowd went nuts. As the Adrian Street character, they went bonkers. Mm-hmm. And they were behind me the whole match. I felt like I was the main event. And I was wrestling Bubba Ray.
Rico, Adrian Street was the first gay guy on British television.
Wow.
I did not. Wow, that's.
There was a guy called Ricky Starr, but he was a glamorous.
Oh yeah,
more glamorous.
Yeah,
but Adrian Street was the flamboyant thing. It came out on that television, and that was big at those days. Whatever year they got television there.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, Taz and Cole referenced Ricky Starr in one of my matches. And because Cole asked Taz, have you ever seen anybody so flamboyant? And Taz came up with, I know Ricky Starr, blah, 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 50 years ago. And that's how I got. Yeah, but this is me in 2003, something like that, 2004.
Yeah, Ricky Starr was in the 50s and the 60s and the 60s.
Yeah, and he was the flamboyant, and then Adrian, but the people in England understand the gimmick, and so now I guess I have to thank you and Adrian and Dustin for paving the way, and I even presented to WWE that Goldust and I become a tag team.
That would have been a good
I
idea.
presented that and they shot it down.
Pardon me.
You
That
know,
would have been
because it wasn't their. You know why? Because it wasn't their idea.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that
that would come up. You know what? When I was there too, you give Vince an idea. A year later, that idea would come up with someone else.
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
and they take credit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the way it goes. It happens in Hollywood. It happens everywhere. But you brought up that valid point. I never thought about it like that. Gold Dust in the mid '90s was huge. Like you said, he wasn't quite the
Yeah.
Undertaker, but I
but he
do.
was huge.
You took
It
me
was
back.
two different things, mate. They were presenting. The Undertaker was completely different, and then Goldust was completely different.
Yeah.
Right out of the box. It
Yeah.
was two
Yeah.
different things. That was
Po-
that was a
polar
spectacle.
polar opposites, but
Polar
drew the
opposite.
same attention.
Yeah.
You know, Undertaker, this unbeatable dead man, bah, and then you have the flamboyant one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two different contrasts, which the fans needed.
Yeah.
And I used to get so much heat from the boys, Luke, because they'd always put Charlie Haas and I in the semi-main events in pay-per-views because
yeah,
everybody always wanted to be the Stone Cold, the tough guy, the Rock, and
yeah,
how much toughness can you go through when the whole pay-per-view is about the main event?
yeah,
So they would put Charlie and I in there for comedic relief, because Charlie was the homophobic. I'd pinch him in the butt, and he'd turn around and,
yeah.
I'd pinch his
Good guy,
cheeks.
a good guy.
Yeah, he was a good guy, wholesome, and here he had me, And the
Yeah,
triangle was I like Charlie, Charlie liked Jackie, Jackie liked me, the
yeah.
valet. So it was kind of like that. But that was the
Oh,
story we were
you had
playing.
Jackie as your valet.
Miss Jackie, yeah, the winner of I think the second or third Tough
The
Enough.
black girl, the black
No,
girl.
no, 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 the white girl, not Jacqueline. I had Miss Jackie Gata. She was a winner of Tough Enough,
Was that
a
Charlie's?
blonde.
Was that Charlie's wife?
Yes, didn't start out as Charlie's wife. It became Charlie's wife through us being tag team champs.
Yeah, and that story went bad. You know that.
Yeah,
He came home
unfortunately,
and he came home and she had another guy there.
No.
I didn't hear that, but
Mm.
like I said, it went bad for both, and I've been trying to contact them, through messages and,
Yeah,
internet, Facebook, just to say hi
he was
because,
working. He was working for NWA.
yeah,
Recently?
He was
he
More
was.
recently?
a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I did see a post
I
that came up where he posted, I think yesterday or day before. He said, "Life is good." And he just posted a picture of him
Oh, he's
smiling.
coming good. I'm glad to hear that because when I
Same
saw him
here.
maybe 3 years ago, life was not good for him.
Okay.
He looked terrible.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. If he is watching this, if Charlie Haas watches this, get in contact with us. We'd love to have you come on and chat with
Yeah,
Rico and I. We'd love to
yeah.
Yes.
give
Charlie's a
everybody,
good egg.
give
Yes, he
everybody an
is.
update on what you're doing.
Straight guy,
He he
straight
would
up.
he
And
he
him and Benjamin, him and Benjamin,
Shelton.
Shelton Benjamin.
Sean, who?
Shelton
Shelton
Benjamin.
Oh,
Benjamin.
yeah. What a great tag team.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were both technical. They were both they came through the OVW thing the same as I did. Brock Lesnar,
Yeah,
Batista, Randy Orton, Cena. Cena was my tag partner in
yeah,
OVW. But yeah, that group, the Ruthless Aggression group, came up through OVW.
yeah,
And there's still
Yeah,
shades of them today. John Cena is still there right now. He cut one of the best promos I've ever heard this past week on Monday Night Raw with Cody Rhodes. If you haven't seen that, Rico, go back and watch it.
right.
I'll encourage your viewers to go and watch that too. It's a heck of a piece. But I know Luke has some prior obligations.
No, I got another 10 minutes.
Oh, we got
15
10 minutes? Okay. All right. We'll keep
So we're
spinning.
going to move on. We're
Yep.
going to move on to Slash Flanagan.
Flash Flanagan, yeah.
Flash Flanagan.
So Flash was meant to join us today, but due to circumstances outside of our control, he is not present, as you can see. But we did promise the fans that we'd talk about Puerto Rico, right?
Puerto
Now,
Rico.
Puerto Rico, this is where Luke and Flash work together. So, Luke, tell us a little bit of these stories. And I know there's a wild one because Flash said he got thrown off a balcony by someone.
Oh, no, I'm going to tell you about that. I went in there in 201 as the booker for Victor Quinones, IWA.
Okay.
And we bought in, I think, about 202, we bought in Flash Flanagan. And that name, when we bring in people from the outside, they're heels.
Okay.
We don't bring any the locals are the babies there. Unless there's an exceptional one who's got a big name in the States. That's when we keep them the same. But we bought him Flash Flanagan. I changed his name to Slash Venom to make it sound like a heel. And being Flash Flanagan in the States, he was a Star Wars freak. He had to have a kendo stick and paint it like paint it yellow or whatever it is.
Lightsaber.
A lightsaber.
Yeah.
He had to have it painted that color. What was the color of the lightsaber?
Do you remember?
Well, depends who had it. Blue,
It was green.
red, green.
Yeah, anyhow, Flash had it painted, and that he couldn't get away from that. He had to have that. Anyhow, he became a good heel, a real good heel, because he'd do these crazy things that people would never see. He'd put a chair in the ring by the ropes. He'd dump the guy outside and made 10 feet away from the ring, maybe 20 feet away from the ring. He would run from the ropes, from the chair, spring up on the chair, and then go right over to where the guy is on the floor. Yeah. Now, you'd have the guy laying on the floor or on a table, and boy, it was freaky. You'd wonder if he was going to make it to where the guy was.
Yeah, yeah.
Freaky moves. Anyhow, this night, he gets our top babyface, Ricky. Ricky, fuck. Sorry.
That's not a babyface name.
Yeah. No.
I'm like, wow, what a babyface name that was.
Yeah, look at the guy now. He went to Mexico and he took over the guy who used to he got burnt in the ring, and he took over that masked guy's name. Ricky Banderas.
Okay, there you go. That's better than Ricky F.
He went to AAA, and he went in there as underneath, not an underneath guy, one of the top guys. But when he went in there, the main guy, got burnt doing a gimmick, and he took over his thing under a mask. The guy was under a mask. The other guy was, and then he went to CML. And was the main guy there. He had a good 10 year. Oh, he's back in AAA there in Mexico now. But
still to this day. Wow.
He went over there in 204, 205.
Gosh, he's been there 20
that was
years.
hard for me to get him out of. I told him he had to get out because he was drawing good still, but he was getting burnt. You know what I mean, by being there on top too long.
Yeah,
I said, we'll bring you back. But when he left, he never came back. Well, he did come back for shows now and again.
Yeah.
Anyhow, where were we?
Flash doing the crazy stunt.
Flash and him in a wild falls anywhere in the building match, and there was a mezzanine floor up above the entrance of the ring, but a bit higher up than that, and there was seating up there. Now, I would say it was 12 feet up.
Okay.
Oh, more than that. 15 feet up.
Okay.
And Slash put Ricky on a table down on the floor and went up in the back, went up the back stairs and up onto the mezzanine plant and did a running dive for the table with the guy on it, missed the guy and hit the fucking floor.
Oh
Now
man.
this was without a word of a lie.
Mhm.
He must have knocked himself out, but he got up within 30 seconds and he was in nowhere land.
Yeah. Lucky to
Nowhere
be.
land. Now Savio was his manager, Savio Vega.
Okay.
His
Okay.
manager. He came out now to Ricky Banderas to do the job on him because Slash was supposed to do the job building up for a big show. And Savio came out with a baseball bat, which he always had in his hand, and swung at Ricky.
Hmm.
Ricky didn't duck, and Savio swung so hard that it hit him over the face and blacked his whole face, side of his face.
Yeesh.
Shit with that. I can't remember if his bones broken or not.
Yeah.
Now we're back in the dressing room. Ricky's lying on the floor, semi-conscious, and Flash is walking around in the dressing room. He doesn't know where he is.
Hmm.
He doesn't know where he was. And then we put him in the shower. You gave him an hour, then put him in the shower, and we took him home.
Hmm.
And the next day, he says, I don't remember. I remember being up on the balcony, and that's all I remember.
Yeah. That's a huge
I
dive.
remember diving off the top of the balcony, and that was we got that on television. That was
Right.
one of the wildest moves I've seen ever.
That's a crazy night. You're
Because it
lucky
was
they're
so
both
high
still.
up. I
Yeah.
know the ECW did some shit off the balcony, but this balcony was way up.
Yeah, Flash is lucky to be alive, man. That's a huge
Now,
Yeah.
here's another guy.
Yeah.
The black guy had always carried a knife around, and that he's dead now in his bag. ECW guy,
Oh, New Jack.
New Jack. We're in a baseball stadium. I can tell you a lot of stories of Puerto Rico, but we're going to cut this one. In a baseball stadium, and he's against Balls Mahoney.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
He beats up
Yeah.
Balls Mahoney, and he puts him down in the dugout on a table. In the dugout, he goes up in the stands above the dugout, and he goes up a ladder. It's a 10-foot ladder, or 6 foot, maybe 6 foot. But he doesn't go at anyone to hold the ladder for him, and he pushes himself off the ladder. The ladder goes backwards. He falls
Yep.
short and hits the concrete in the dugout.
Mm.
Now he's fucking whacked out.
Mhm.
He's whacked out now.
Mhm.
He gets up. He goes back out. Goes back up to the top again. Gets the ladder, and this time he gets security to hold the ladder for him. And he comes off on Balls. The Balls and him worked a lot around the country, for independent shows.
Yeah.
Balls was always a good catcher,
Yeah.
for all the stunts that New Jack did, and he was a stunt man.
Yeah.
Balls was there for him, caught him and made sure he kept him safe.
Yeah.
But that night, I go back in the dressing room. Both of them are semi-conscious on the floor. Balls is always fucked up after a match for all the crazy stuff he's done.
Yeah.
And there's Blackjack laying beside him, seeing stars.
Sounds like that was a common occurrence in Puerto Rico.
And they're most probably taking Percocets, pulling themselves both up on Percocets.
Yeah. Now, but was there a lot of money to be made in Puerto Rico with the business?
They came in when the guys came in from outside. They were on a guarantee for a show.
Okay. Was it substantial, or was the pay okay?
About a five back in the early 2000, it was 1,000 a shot.
Okay. Which
for
would have
those
gone.
guys.
Which would have gone.
They already come in if they come in for a house show inside, but these are ballpark shows.
Okay, got it. Okay. So and
Yeah.
you guys presumably were working consistently.
Now
like,
here's
every week.
another guy who's well known, and that Vampiro.
Yep.
Boy,
Vampiro, yeah.
he was great. He's still working, you know that.
Yeah, he is.
He got sick for a while, and he had that disease, and that mind was going away. Short memory and that, but he's back in the ring again, and he's always kept his body in good shape,
Yeah.
and he's still unreal worker.
That's incredible.
Doing wild stuff.
That's incredible. So Vampira was able to beat, was it Parkinson's or dementia or something he had, the onsets of that? He beat it?
Yeah, well, not actually beat it. He's still short memory.
Okay.
He told me, and he gets spells where he gets spells now and again.
Yeah, yeah. But I know he's back in the NWA. But
Yeah, he's helping NWA to get booked in Mexico.
got it. Yeah, I saw him on an episode there recently. But I think we've come to the top of the hour here because I know you got obligations, Luke, and we got to bring this to a close. Luke, I want to thank you for coming on and being a guest and sharing some of those stories.
Rico, I want to come back when you get that guy missing in action. Flash
Yes.
AKA Flash Venom.
Yep.
He's gone missing in action quite a few times in his life, but we've got to reel him in, spank his ass, and get him on the show.
That's right. Rico, what do you say about that?
I was an expert in spanking the bootay when I was in the ring.
Riding them and
bingo. Riding and spanking.
So you're gonna have to get on his butt this time, Rico.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to make sure he gets here this time. But Rico, send us out with your saying, please.
As I always said, fans, what your mind can conceive, your heart can achieve.
That's right. What you can, and that's it. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, or lay the smackdown on it, rather, and we'll see you right back here next week on Styling.
And if you don't,
thank you, Luke.
I'm going to grab your head and give you the batting ram. Love you, fans. See you next time.
Yes.
Whoa.
Whoa.